Hi, welcome back to Public Counsel's Giving Tuesday Facebook Live session. That's a mouthful. Thank you for tuning in. I'm David Bubas, Director of Philanthropy at Public Counsel, and we've been joining you all day with different sessions highlighting our work. And now we are going to be highlighting our Immigrants' Rights Project, one of our largest units in Public Counsel for obvious reasons that you'll hear more about, actually, maybe not so obvious to you. With us today from the Immigrant Rights Project are Gina Amato, who is the Supervising Senior Staff Attorney at the Immigrant Rights Project, or IRP, I said it, and Jose Ortiz Rosales, a social worker for IRP. And I welcome you both. I thought we'd start off by just really tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you got involved in this work at Public Counsel.
Great. Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. So happy and excited to talk to you today about the amazing work that we do here at Public Counsel. I've been here for almost 11 years. I was drawn to this work because I'm the daughter of an immigrant, and I was really very much raised with the responsibility to give back to the immigrant community. So I came to Public Counsel to do that and to really make a meaningful impact on the lives of immigrants. Excuse me.
That's awesome, Gina. I came into Public Counsel as a social worker because, in a sense, it's a non-traditional setting for social workers. And what drove me to work in immigration was just that both of my parents are immigrants who came to this country for a reason, and which kind of gave me the opportunity to be where I'm at today. So I kind of want to be also another person to help in the immigrant community.
Great. Thank you both for that. So Gina, why don't you also give us a bit of an overview about the project and what's entailed in the work?
Sure. The Immigrants' Rights Project has grown dramatically over the past few years, and we're involved in a lot of different types of work. But generally, we're an interdisciplinary team of attorneys, social workers, and administrative staff. We provide holistic trauma-informed services to our clients, and we really do serve some of the most vulnerable members of our community. The way we do that is by representing immigrant children who have been abused, abandoned, or neglected. We serve immigrants who have been victims of crime here in the United States or have been survivors of human trafficking. We serve adults and children who have fled torture and are seeking asylum in the United States, as well as immigrants in detention who are facing imminent deportation.
Okay. So why or how is your work unique?
Well, our work is unique because everything that we do within the Immigrants' Rights Project complements each other. What I mean by that is that our direct work, meaning the legal representation we provide to our clients, complements and provides information to our impact litigation, the policy work that we do, but then also the community engagement that we're a part of. And then we also kind of provide an interdisciplinary legal team. What that means is that there's many folks in the team to provide a better support to the client. And by representing the client while they're applying for this humanitarian relief, we're also identifying and also being informed of other areas of the client's life that would help us and support us as we represent them in their legal matters.
Thus, the need for social workers as well as attorneys.
Yes.
Terrific. Can you give us an idea of the impact of your work?
Sure. Well, as our viewers, I'm sure understand, it's a very challenging time to practice immigration law with everything that's going on. But we have reflected on our work in the past year and the past few years, and we have really made an incredible impact on the community, given this sort of unique model that we employ. So again, we have a detention team who regularly goes into the detention centers and meets with individuals who are detained and are facing the possibility of removal. And this past year alone, our team has served over 500 immigrants who are in detention. And we've done that through our legal orientation program, through direct representation, and through also representing them in bond and removal proceedings. So that is one specific area. But in addition to that, we have served more than 200 unaccompanied children. So these are, again, unaccompanied minors, minors who have entered the country alone or not in the presence of a family member or adult. And we also obtain pro bono representation for families who are fleeing persecution and seeking asylum in the United States. In addition, I manage our U visa VAWA T visa program, which is there are basically forms of immigration relief that are available to immigrants who have been victims of crime here in the United States and who have cooperated with the authorities in the investigation or prosecution of their perpetrators. So we have served hundreds of immigrants this year alone who are either eligible for those forms of relief or eligible to become green card holders or legal permanent residents based on those forms of relief.
You mentioned pro bono. Could you expand a little bit about the role of pro bono attorneys and other people that have volunteered?
Sure. So that's another way in which the work that we do at Public Counsel is very unique, and that we employ the pro bono model, meaning that we take our own cases here in-house, but the cases that we tend to take are those that are more complicated or require really expertise in that particular area. But we're able to serve such large numbers of clients because we work with private attorneys from private law firms here in Los Angeles, and we recruit them to do the work that we do. We train them and we supervise them so that they're able to get the experience of providing humanitarian immigration relief to a live client with our supervision, training, and guidance.
That's great. And obviously you're able to serve a lot more people with their assistance.
Correct.
So it's depth of knowledge and breadth, or I guess numbers of people at the end of the day that you can serve. Terrific. So, yeah. Any client stories you want to share, Jose?
Yeah, so I want to share a story of a young man from Honduras. I think this is a good example of like the work that we do, but then how it kind of looks in practice. So after 2 asylum interviews and nearly a year and a half of waiting to see what they were going to decide on his asylum claim, we were able to help him attain asylum this year. And the story of this young man is he left Honduras because he was abandoned by his parents at a young age. He was raised and cared for by his uncle. His uncle then began to get extorted by gang members in their community. And when uncle refused to get extorted and pay whatever the gang members were requesting, they murdered the uncle. And what's even harder is that the client witnessed all this. And because he was a witness and because he was part of the family member of the uncle, he began to get threats as well. So he had to flee. Shortly after that, as well, his cousin got murdered. So here in the United States, he was able to reunite, and he entered the United States as an unaccompanied minor. He reunited with his older cousin and the cousin's kids. And while being here, he was able to go to school. He stopped going to school at a very young age. So at the school, they were able to identify some learning, the need of some learning assistance, and then also mental health and trauma. And as a team, we kind of collaborate with all these service providers to kind of help the client heal through this process. Because as we know, asylum, when you go through the asylum process, you kind of have to relive your trauma over and over again. And imagine as a 17-year-old, when just having to retell the story of your uncle and retell the story of that to a stranger and then be questioned and all that, it takes a toll on somebody. So imagine if it takes a toll as you as an adult. Just imagine how it is for a young person. So with the therapist and other providers, we were able to get him to a place where he could be able to tell his story at his interviews, at his preps here with the attorney and the legal team. And that was a result of how we were able to help him attain asylum this year.
And what's his status now?
He has asylum, so he is an asylee.
And he'll soon be eligible to adjust his status to lawful permanent resident, correct?
Yeah.
Terrific. And housed? Everything?
Yeah. He's stable. He's living the life that everyone that comes to this country hopes to live, which is calm and thriving.
Terrific.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Great outcome. Did you have something you wanted to add?
We have a million stories that we could tell, really, but I think what we really want to focus on is, again, just how unique the work that we do is and how our work with our clients, such as this young man, really informs the other type of work that we do, the litigation we engage in, as well as the policy. And so I would like to share some examples of that. As I mentioned early on, our detention team is in the detention centers on a very regular basis, meeting with clients and just really understanding the many, many challenges that immigrants face in detention. And one thing that our audience may not know is that, of course, when you commit a crime, you are entitled to an attorney paid for by the state, but not so if you're an immigrant placed in removal proceedings or at the risk of being deported. You are not entitled to an attorney at the cost of the government. So our team, of course, recognized this and recognized the need and launched a campaign for universal representation, meaning that every immigrant who is at risk of being deported should be entitled to an attorney paid for by the state. And we did amazing work on that front and won so much funding. There are millions of dollars now being diverted to organizations here in Los Angeles County as a direct result of the work that we have done here at Public Counsel. So we're very, very proud of that, and we will continue to fight for universal representation for all immigrants. The second thing is that our team that focuses on serving unaccompanied minors recognized the need for litigation, as there were many barriers popping up that were preventing immigrant children who have been abused, abandoned, or neglected from really seeking and obtaining the relief to which they're entitled. So our team litigated some key issues all the way up to the California Supreme Court and won. So we very vigorously defended the immigrant children who are looking to apply for special immigrant juvenile status. I won't get too far in the weeds, but that litigation was a direct result of the work that we're doing, directly serving those clients. And then finally, the work that I do also informs the policy work that we do with regard to crime victims and human trafficking survivors. And the story that I want to share is one of a very long-term client of mine who continues to be a great ally and friend and now advocate for Public Counsel. And this woman was a domestic violence survivor who reported the abuse to the police, but then was horrifically I'll say taken advantage of by a so-called family friend who stepped in and said that he would help her get immigration assistance. And long story short, over the course of 10 years, this man extorted over $80,000 from our client. So we were not only able to help her get her U visa and then her green card based on her U visa, we placed her civil case with a pro bono attorney who got her a judgment for, I want to say it's around $70,000. And then we also helped facilitate a criminal case against the man who defrauded her out of $80,000. So she was able to see remedies on many different fronts. Yeah. And really the point that I want to communicate here is that recently we held a U Visa Roundtable, which is an event where we call all of law enforcement from LA County together to talk about the U Visa certification process, which I won't get too far into, but law enforcement plays an integral role in immigrants being able to apply for this remedy, because they have to sign a sheet verifying that the immigrant was a victim of crime and that they were cooperative in the investigation. So every year, advocates like myself at the different organizations across LA, we meet with law enforcement to build relationships and to help just ease this process in order to better serve the immigrant community. And this year, my client who I just described came and spoke to law enforcement and talked about the amazing impact that the U visa has had on her life, and how the assistance that she received at Public Counsel has truly changed her life, and how she was able to come out of the shadows and is now living a vibrant, healthy, stable life. So not only do we allow the work that we do to inform the advocacy that we as attorneys and social workers engage in, but we also try to find places where our clients themselves can be active in the advocacy, because they are the best messengers.
And that's also part of the healing process.
Absolutely.
Because it's empowering for them.
It absolutely was. So that was a very proud moment for me as her attorney and her advocate, to see her stand so strong before law enforcement, because she had so much fear of the police before, and to see her now in a room of law enforcement explaining what a powerful impact this had on her life. It was very cathartic.
That's a goosebump story.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
That is awesome. So, clearly we're living in an era right now, politically and policy-wise, that at times makes your work difficult, but more importantly, it's making the lives of so many people difficult. So how are you operating in this current climate? How are you overcoming some of the challenges?
Did you want to start?
Yeah, representing them, trying to represent as many folks as we can, but unfortunately we don't have the full financial capacity to. So we're trying to represent one client at a time. But then we're also doing a lot of the policy and impact litigation that Gina mentioned. Would you agree?
Absolutely, and I think another thing we're doing is doing our best to stay on top of all of the developments. I mean, it's hard for us experts in this area to stay on top of everything that's happening. So we understand that the community is confused and they're scared and they need credible information. So we try to get out to the community and educate immigrants about their rights, about the developments in the law. Because oftentimes they're misinformed just through word of mouth and have fear where maybe it's not necessarily justified or appropriate. Right. So we view it as our job to really educate the community and make sure that they know what their rights are and that they have access to reputable attorneys. That is really the most important thing, because public counsel, we're one of the very few free legal organizations here in LA County, and we have an amazing team. I know I'm biased, but we really have an amazing team, and so it's important to provide access to immigrants, and that means to provide affordable or free legal services. Right. As we do.
You know, the scope and the scale of this challenge, I think, cannot be understated. Right. We're a city of immigrants, right. Maybe more so than any other city in America today. Mm-hmm. But obviously there are many people who are living here under a whole array of legal statuses, and I don't think that we're yet in a place where we're really addressing all the people that need our help. Right. Would that be a correct statement?
Yes, I think that the need is insatiable. Yeah. Honestly, I think that we will never meet the need. Yeah. We do our best to, but it is very overwhelming. And, you know, one other thing I just wanted to add in terms of these challenges is we're all also constantly battling the public perception of the community that we serve. And I think that's particularly true right now as we're watching the border crisis unfold. And we're seeing women and children get tear gassed by the police and people scaling walls and such. Yeah. And because we have been doing this work on the ground for so long, we understand the forces that would drive somebody to walk across countries, especially with small children. We understand that they must be facing such horrific, that they are, not that they must, we know firsthand that they are facing such horrific conditions at home that it is actually a safer choice for them to risk their lives and the lives of their children than to remain home. And I think it's difficult for us to do this work and battle this false narrative that this administration is spreading about the community that we hold so dear.
Yeah, and like Gina mentioned, they've come from a long distance to then they just get so close to hope that then more barriers be put in front of them. Yes. And that's what we're seeing now. And it's hard to see because we understand, like Gina said, we understand what's supposed to happen when somebody comes to the border and wants to seek asylum. Yeah. It's unfortunate that our administration is not allowing that process to go forward.
The legal process.
The legal process, yes.
Right.
Legal process.
To acquire asylum.
Yes.
Yeah, it's important to always remind people that's a legal option.
Right. But with the narrative that exists today, people don't understand Correct. That. They believe this narrative that these are invaders or that they're criminals or that they're somehow here to make our lives worse or harder. And it's well-meaning, good people who are susceptible to this type of propaganda. Sure. I mean, and I'm sure many people who are listening heard all kinds of comments around their Thanksgiving table, you know, and I come from a very progressive family, and I myself heard somebody, I come from a Mexican immigrant family, and I heard one of my family members say, well, we couldn't possibly let them all in. And I'm like, how could we not? It's the law. It is their right to seek asylum. The law allows them to enter the country at any port of entry and seek asylum.
Yeah.
And but the narrative is very confusing. It's very polarizing. It's very negative. So we're constantly battling that in doing the work that we do. It is just an extra challenge to the work that we do.
I'm sure. It's a great reminder, actually. And Jose, I'm glad you shared that story about your client and who really felt that his life was threatened. And if we can multiply that story by God knows how many people, that's what these people are facing, and they deserve our assistance and help and safe refuge. So on that note, I will say first and foremost, thank you to the two of you for coming and taking the time and talking about your great work, your life-saving and life-altering work. And if you out in the internet land are so inspired and so moved by the work that Gina and Jose had just described, please do make your way to the bottom of your Facebook page and push that donate button. We need any and all contributions to help support our immigrant rights group and all the other great work at Public Counsel. Every donation is certainly appreciated, of any amount. We have a special opportunity today. Our Public Counsel Board of Directors have generously given a $50,000 grant for our Giving Tuesday this year. Every dollar given on Giving Tuesday is going to be matched dollar for dollar. So please take advantage of this match. Please hit that donate button at the bottom of your Facebook page. Click. And remember that every dollar that's contributed is really matched. It's magnified by 11 to 1 because of our pro bono volunteers. Every dollar of staff time that's paid for is really matched by $11 worth of service by our volunteers. So just keep that in mind as you make your donations. Thank you so much for tuning in. Our next session starts at 3:30. We're going to be joined by a couple of our members from our community development project, and you'll hear more about that at 3:30. So please tune in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.